Mm. Before burnout, there is work fatigue. Work fatigue is chronic job stress that has begun affecting the worker mentally, emotionally, physically, ethically, and spiritually. It often appears before disease fully manifests. That is why workers who present to the doctor with real symptoms and still leave the doctor's office feeling dismissed, confused, unseen, gaslit. The issue isn't always that the doctor has ignored them. Doctors are positioned to diagnose, provide treatment, and do disease management. Workforce care is designed for prevention, assessment, system navigation, and work context clarity before stress has an opportunity to become disease, crises, or workforce loss. Use a doctor for disease management, diagnosis, medical treatments. They are excellent at that. Use a professional registered nurse for prevention. It's what we do, it's why we're hired, it's who we are. Today, we are talking about the hardest part of taking FMLA, deciding what to say. So maybe you're like me, hearing the horror stories on social media, in comments, people's narration about being fired while on FMLA. Some time ago, I did some videos on the specifics. You can go to my website and check that out. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna keep everything very general because I did not go back to get the facts. I didn't do that. I'm just remembering and regurgitating from memory. Okay, hopefully to plant a seed to help you grow and be watered in the situation you're in currently, or maybe you know someone who is thinking about going off work. So, right, horror stories about being fired while taking FMLA. The first case I want to talk about is there was a young man. Oh, he was on the Kendra G. Yeah, y'all know Kendra G. Sometimes I'll be like watching that dating thing, that dating show that she has. But it was a young man on there, and he worked for a very large, amazing company. And he said that he was fired because he disclosed that he um, had cancer and was trying to take FMLA, and he was fired while he was on leave, losing his health insurance. And the only thing that this young man talked about, you can hear the pain cracking through his voice, is that he loved his job there at the amazing large organization, loved his job, and that he was climbing and advancing within the company. He was had a sense of pride. If you're like me, working provides a sense of pride. Like it always has for me. Maybe because I'm Gen X, I'm not really sure, but I I've never ever wanted to be an entrepreneur, but something happened in the workplace that led me to have to take hold of this position within the markets of our country. But this young man was fired, losing his health insurance, losing his hope. And then there was a woman who worked for a large hospital. She was fired on her way into surgery. And then there was a nurse who was fired for saying, I'm stressed, to her manager who had an open door policy. So, what do you think happened here? What do you think happened? They all talk too much, period. They all talk too much. They told a person who represents the best interest, the best image of the organization that they work for, I have cancer, I'm having surgery, I'm stressed. They talk to their managers like they are friends, and that's fine to a certain level. You guys, I'm not saying to be hardcore at work, but you have to understand that it is work. It is work. And they are always playing a game with you that you haven't even began to learn the rules of engagement of. And then end up getting played like a fiddle. How you play a fiddle? I don't know. I don't know how to play a fiddle. I haven't no instrument inclinations. Play a fiddle? I don't know. Anyway, they end up getting played because you were too nice, too revealing, too accommodating, just talk way too much to people who are not in a position to even hear you or to care because they are hired to do a job, and that job is to represent the best interest of the organization that they work for. I want to ask you another question. Why do you think deeply personal medical information was shared with their employer? Why do you think that? Why do you think that in the middle of your day, after you received a diagnosis from your doctor, and you have already been working, feeling fatigued, maybe constipated, maybe with insomnia, maybe with a lump in your breast, already been working and showing up, and then you get this news, and then you feel compelled to tell your employer? What would make you do that? I'll tell you what made me do that. And it wasn't even about my own diagnosis. It was about my mom's diagnosis. I had left my mom at Centinela Hospital, and I went to work over on the Avenue of the Stars in Los Angeles in Century City. I was working for an ear, nose, and throat doctor as a medical assistant. And I'll never forget that day. My mom called me after her diagnosis results came back, and she was like, I have cancer. And then I immediately turned to my office manager and said, I have to go. My mom just got diagnosed with cancer. Let's say that was a Friday. By Monday, when I clocked into work, I remember saying to God, please take me out of this place. Clocked, clocked in, and within the hour, I was handed a severance check. Came in handy, but I gave the information. Okay. Um, I wanted to be able to leave, but at the same time, would I have been fired? I hadn't been written up. You know, I can say I didn't really fit into the environment so well, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact that I told them that my mom had cancer, so now they were thinking, oh, she's going to be leaving, she's going to take the FMLA, she's going to be distracted. We can't have that here. She already don't know the actors that's in here, and she's treating the Medi-Cal patients the same as she's treating our pay patients. Yeah, I really was. Forgive me. But talk too much. And I should not have. especially if I wanted to be able to use FMLA, keep my job, and balance my life with my mom going through treatment. Because my mom ended up passing 4 months, after that. But, you know, oh, I kind of want to get into work life balance. I'm going to go ahead and say it real quick because sometimes we don't understand what work life balance is. Work life balance is not just for our employers to give us leeway so that we can balance life and work, like take the FMLA, go to mom's doctor's appointments and, go to the child's, um, you know, sporting events or back to school. It's actually taking time off, being present in it, reading books, growing, taking a course, understanding, applying, reflecting, moving forward. That's work life balance. That's work life balance. Not getting access to your FMLA or, intermittent FMLA so that you can walk a tightrope. You're not in a circus. You're no one's circus monkey. You should always have your feet planted solid on ground and redefine what work life balance is. You work, you life. You work, you life. So hold your tongue. FMLA is protected time off, and you do not have to be spilling your guts, telling your manager a new diagnosis you haven't even wrapped your own heart and mind around because they're already calculating, they're already planning. They've been documenting you since you accepted the position. Before I go any further, I just want to remind everyone I am not an attorney, nor do I play one on TV, but I am a professional registered nurse who has a legal and moral obligation to protect health, to protect you from injury. And so I'm here to just say a lot of your health issues, a lot of your health concerns is unaddressed, unmanaged legal issues. Child, what did I write right there? Unresolved, unaddressed, unmanaged legal issues. And I say that because I want you from this moment forward to begin to not be as so passive and take more action about what it is that you are experiencing in the workplace. Are you being passive? Are you just going along with the get along so that you can just keep the peace on the outside when you should be active about somebody infringing on your rights? Because if you are keeping the peace on the outside, then you are having violence on the inside. That's pretty much guaranteed. When something happens where you need to take time off using your FMLA, whether it's medical or whether it's mental, you should begin to document and keep record. What I like to do is print out emails. What I also like to do is from my server at work, CC myself to my personal email and then still print it. But there are a lot of things that you need to be documenting because your employment has conditions to it. And if you're not upholding in the conditions of your employment, which is anti-harassment, anti-bias, anti-discrimination, policies and laws taken from state and federal laws, then you're not really upholding your end of the bargain. You're being too passive. You're not active about the legalities that's taking place at work that is impacting your health and causing a serious health condition. Whether it's medical or whether it's mental, document and record what is happening. You have a right to remain silent. Although you may feel compelled to want someone's compassion and empathy, child, I don't know, it's the generation. Because when I first started working, my mama told me, go to work to do your job. Don't be looking for no extra special treatment for doing the job that you're supposed to be doing. And number two, I remember I was calling in to work and I was like, I'm not going to come in today. I may have been about 17 years old working as a medical assistant. I was like, on the phone, I said, oh, Nia, I'm not going to come to work today because I don't feel well. My mama was like, don't tell them people you don't feel well. You don't know how they're interpreting that. You telling people one thing and they're going to remember it forever and then they'll use it against you. So from then on out, I was just like, I'm calling off today because that's all that they need. You're informing them you're not showing up. You do not have to tell why. You don't have to tell why. So you have the right to remain silent. Don't give out any more information than you need because it will be used against you. And trust me. Remember, you're not asking for permission to access your rights. You're not. You're not asking for permission. You're putting them on a professional notice. You're letting them know that you're not available and that you're going to be taking off this time. You've already spoken to your doctor, you've already understood what it is that is happening, and you're already making plans to be able to rest, recover, and restore yourself so that you can go back to work better, not needing any ADA accommodation, back to the same job, back to a better position. If you need an accommodation that cannot be accommodated within the role that you're functioning in now, then you need a new job. You need a new position. You'll want to apply the nursing process to your situation. If you're a nurse or if you're not a nurse and you're not sure how to apply the nursing process, we're here to help you with that. But the first thing you want to do is be able to gather the data, make sense of the data. What happened? Why did it happen? When did it happen? Who was involved with it? All pertinent information. Then you want to make a judgment, which is a diagnosis, right? You want to judge. That's what a diagnosis is. Did you know that? Type yes if you knew that a diagnosis is equal to a judgment. And I used to always say, Tupac say only God can judge me. And I'm like, yeah, but people walking around here with all these diagnoses on them, and you haven't even diagnosed or judged the environment or the reason why you're in the situation that you're in. So it's a true statement that only God can judge you. But you're letting all these other gods judge you when you should be judging the situation and setting a plan and setting goals about how you're going to overcome the situation and not be passive about it. Then you're going to implement these strategies. You're going to implement and intervene where necessary. Then you're going to reevaluate your progress. Simple critical thinking, simple action planning, simple movement through the situation that you're in that's going to have amazing consequences for you. Had I worked with any one of these case studies that I talked to you about, the man who was fired from the amazing company because he disclosed he had cancer, or the woman who was fired on her way into surgery, or the nurse who, you know, was fired because she said that she was stressed. Now, that's such a vague thing to say just randomly, hey, let me help you out and let you go. Because it's not against the law to fire somebody because they're stressed. I mean, did you think that they were going to, would you think that they were going to be like, oh, have a seat, let's have a kumbaya and figure out what's happening? No, you're at work. Everybody has to show up under the conditions of employment and play by the rules of engagement and do the thing that is supposed to be done so that you do not fall victim, so that you are victorious in your stress situation, in your stress challenge. Because all of these people were fired without recourse. I've been doing this work since 2012, and my clients who I did have before I even started like building the business, they were able to secure attorneys, civil rights attorneys, get money payback. But this is so much bigger than that. Okay. This is so much bigger than that. I said, Lord, if I have to sit up here and do work like this, it's not what I want to do. It's not what I'm going to do. So thank God he showed me the better field to build in, to go and collect harvest in, and that's the Workforce Care Center. Because although we don't want you being fired without recourse, that's not our goal. Our goal is to educate, and our goal is to prevent health disparities from happening because of job stress that lasts longer than 6 weeks. We don't want you becoming sick because of unresolved job stress issues. It's probably the number one reason, workplace stress, why people even see their doctors. And that's not even the appropriate provider to see for workplace stress, because the stress hasn't manifested into disease yet. The stress is inside of you, spiking cortisols so that you can show love to yourself to either fight or take flight. The problem is that you don't know how to fight and take flight within the workplace. They've talked to you, psychology has talked to you about freeze and fawn. Freeze and fawn, I don't know where you're supposed to do that at. But yet everybody is doing it. What you freezing and fawning for? You have your policies, you have your spirit and your intuition. And I know that you're practicing faith. I know that you trust in God, because you got to show them. Work is where you show them, and work when you show them, and this is how you win at your situation. So, had I worked with these cases, my notes say the man who was fired after disclosing cancer, he could have quietly taken off work and used me as an advocate instead of his employers talking to him. He could have talked to me. They could talk to me. He's resting. He's on medication. He doesn't need to talk to his employer. Talk to me, his health advocate. He could have had help accessing other benefits, whether or not it was an extended leave, past FMLA, short term, long term disability. You'd be surprised how many people have benefits and they don't even know what they're paying for. They don't know how to access it. Completely health illiterate, completely illiterate to the benefits that they have available to them, or even comprehending what it is that they have and can do. We can help you with that. Then we could have also decided on a return to work strategy for him, looking at his essential functions of his job, requesting the interactive process, and getting to an accommodation, as well as teaching the staff, his coworkers, about adjusting to help with his wellness initiatives. We can do all of that. And your employer still don't need to know your medical diagnosis. Health equity is the goal here. Okay. It's about documenting and knowing what your essential functions are and how your employer and your coworkers can help improve wellness. Wellness is about your mind, body, and soul being in alignment. Knowing when and how to ask for your needs to be met is powerful. That's equity. Equity prevents lack, vulnerability, delayed healing, and disability claims. It also prevents anger, employees going postal, domestic violence, because so many men and women are bullied. And what's that other word? Bullied and mobbed at work. And they say nothing and do nothing, but then they project when they get home. So taking the work fatigue quiz can alleviate all of that pressure for you, because unidentified workplace stress leads to crises in many ways. It leads to premature death, preventable stress related diseases, poverty of our nation's workforce. Organizations' images become stained, and the workers on the inside do bare minimum because they show that they do not care about their employees. Taking the work fatigue quiz changes outcomes and processes that lead to godly health, equity, and justice. Working with Glenae's Arts for Life is a win win for the employee and the employer. So if you are thinking about taking FMLA, I want you to pause and ask yourself, will sharing this information, will it help me or will it hurt me? If you've already said too much to your employer, quickly follow up with an email and send a professional, not a passionately personal email. Because I know a lot of y'all love to write your employers with a Dear John letter. Your feelings matter, but it does not matter in this situation. So, not passionately and and personal, but a professional email is what you want to be able to send to your employers. Clarify. On May 18th, I told you that I was stressed. I want to add and I want to clarify to you that I've been working out of ratio, short staffed, and overtime for approximately 8 weeks. Going forward, I'm going to need to take some time off, and I will be completing an assignment despite objective before every shift. Can you please share with me what your plans are in getting more nurses hired to work here? And I'm concerned about practicing under unsafe conditions for so long and what consequences may occur that only I will be held accountable for. Close the email with confidence, giving them understanding that you are a professional who is accountable and responsible for patient care and advocacy, not their operations. Okay, well, that is it for us today. Thank you. If you're watching this video on a replay, be sure to comment, like, and share this information. You may be saving someone's life. Comment fatigue if you're interested in taking our work fatigue quiz. Do not enter the system without a professional registered nurse by your side to help you understand where you at and where you going and how to get through safely. Because ain't no going back. You're gonna go through. Bye now.